I think you may have already answered my next question, which was what was one of the most challenging um, experiences, and I anticipated you mentioning Interstellar. I think I may have read it or seen it in another video where you mentioned that it was such a shallow depth of field that it was just incredibly difficult film to shoot.
Yeah, the style of filmmaking became kind of common practice to have incredibly shallow depth and not rehearse and just to shoot improv. That's how we did Joker, both of the Jokers. It was all improv with
Right.
incredibly shallow depth. I had become, because of movies like Interstellar, I had become very proficient in being able to do that. Not everybody can, and they don't have the self confidence or the experience to be able to handle that effectively. For me, Interstellar, which was film, which means I'm pulling focus by eye, not off a monitor, not with any references. You're judging space, you're judging air. It's a very intangible craft. And when you're shooting 65 millimeter negative film, IMAX, and Panavision anamorphic 35 millimeter format, with no depth of field, there's no margin for error. And yeah, I made mistakes here and there where I had to ask for a second chance at it. That just goes with the territory. And you can't be afraid of making mistakes, because if you're afraid of it, then you're going to tighten up, stop thinking, stop reacting, and you're so tense and nervous, you stop performing. So I never worried about making an error because we focus pullers all know it comes with the territory. It's going to happen. It's just how do you manage that? How do you overcome it? And it becomes a mental game. Once you get it in your head that you're struggling, the easiest shot in the world that would normally be easy for you becomes an uphill battle and just something that's so difficult to overcome. I've been there, when I was younger. I've experienced it all. I've made every mistake you can possibly make along the way. But for Interstellar, I knew there would be challenging shots, and there was no lack of that. I also knew that I had a director in Christopher Nolan that expected your A game and nothing left or nothing less. And that if you started making mistakes and just constantly messing up, you were going to get the full wrath from him. And that's something I didn't need in my life.
Mm.
So, if I buzzed a shot, if I missed a little moment of a shot, I would immediately at cut turn to Chris and Hoyta, the cinematographer, and say, hey, I missed this moment. If it's really important to you, we should do it again. If it's not that important to you, well, Chris, you make that decision. But it's something we can do perfectly. And, it went very well, but it was mentally draining every single day, going home just exhausted. And then again, uh, Iceland was a small portion of the movie, but it was the most difficult portion, shooting on the glacier, the frozen planet with the water,
Yeah.
the wave, and where Matt Damon, where his, I don't know what you call it, the capsule that he lived in,
Oh,
was
yes.
on a glacier in isolated Iceland, and the weather was very challenging. And you're just trying to keep the gear working in the cold and in the wet and the adverse conditions with Christopher Nolan all over you all the time.
Right.
So, you have to have fortitude. You have to have courage. You know, uh, I had the confidence to do it, not overly confident. Humility goes a very long ways. But the ability to admit you made a mistake when you make that mistake, I think is very, very important for anybody to do in whatever job or life's event, whatever it applies to. Don't hide it. the truth will come out, and then it's 1,000 times worse. So, but I have to say, Interstellar went incredibly well, as challenging as it was. And in the movie, you see little bits of, focus because it was so shallow that, there are moments that I know I couldn't have done any better than I did. And then you have to accept that and move on and try to improve it the next time. And hopefully you do. Or maybe it's just so impossibly difficult that that's just what it is. It's hard for me to admit, but sometimes that was the case.